This is not Rio de Janeiro. The Brazilian sun is a world away. This is our beach. The winter makes us who we are. The cold steals our resolve. The wind thickens our skin, so that in the heat of the fight, all we feel is the fire in our hearts and the ice in our veins.
Right. Can somebody tell me when we adopted winter as the Canadian identity? Seriously, when did we as a nation decide we would make the 3 short months that is winter a national ethos? I'm curious. I want to know who the genius was who thought this was a good idea. Because according to this ad, and many like it, Canada is a frozen wasteland akin to the planet Hoth, where winter's grip never relents. A land battered by the howling wind, where snowdrifts consume everything in their path. A land where toothless ogres use bent sticks to chase their prey across a frozen hellscape. That's not Canada. Perhaps in the high Arctic, yeah, but the vast majority of us Canadians don't live in the high Arctic. Most Canadians live within 100 kilometers of the American border. In fact, about 20 million of Canada's 36 million inhabitants live in the Golden Horseshoe to Montreal corridor, which is the same latitude as France, southern France to be exact, has a fairly temperate climate. The spring and fall are pleasant, and summers more often than not are scorchers. So why has winter in the high north come to dominate our psyche? Well, most countries have a nation-building myth. It's the compelling creation story that gets its citizens to buy into the narrative that unites them all. The Greeks had Homer's epic, the Iliad. The Romans had Romulus and Remus. The Britons had King Arthur. And our neighbors to the south had the War of Independence. So what's Canada's nation-building myth? Well, according to the ads and commonly held ideas,
let me tell you about the greatest Arctic explorer you've probably never heard of. John Ray was a doctor for Hudson's Bay Company. And in their service, Dr. Ray learned that he loved to explore. He led 4 Arctic expeditions back in the 1840s and 50s, back when most explorers either froze...
Yeah, that's great, Les. Thank you very much. Again, this ad highlights the Arctic and Arctic explorers. Canada has a rich history to draw from in order to cultivate a nation-building myth. So why focus on the sparsely populated high north and all things winter? Well, I think there's a cognitive dissonance in Canada. Cognitive dissonance is holding 2 contradictory ideas together at once. Cognitive dissonance for my conservative friends is akin to being in favor of small government and being okay with it regulating the most intimate aspects of people's lives, like sodomy laws. And for my liberal friends, being in favor of tolerance and diversity, but being utterly hostile and intolerant to diverse opinions or worldviews. Canada's cognitive dissonance is the political ideology of multiculturalism. The dissonance is between the present and the past, between the need for the people to belong or coalesce around the idea of the state, and the state who prevents the coalescing and divides them with its policies. Multiculturalism is a well-intentioned policy and was meant to, and I quote, affirm the value and dignity of all Canadian citizens and ensures that all citizens can keep their identities can take pride in their ancestry. It was a well-intentioned idealistic policy, but it had unintended consequences. It divided people as hyphenated citizens instead of uniting everyone as Canadians. So instead of a country of just Canadians, we have German Canadians, Greek Canadians, Indo-Canadians, Chinese Canadians. This idealism is what prevents the people of this country from coalescing around a common nation-building myth. Because, well, we wouldn't want to offend anyone. God forbid. You can't have a country of hyphenated citizens or people who identify with where they originated more than where they are. You're either Canadian or you're not. So instead of weaving a nation-building myth based on the exploits of Canadians who built this country, like all countries do, Canada has taken the timid approach of embracing the mostly unpopulated north and the 3 short months that are the winter, even though most Canadians don't suffer from its extremes, despite what Les Stroud or the Canadian Olympic team says. But don't take my word for it. Just listen to what another famous and highly regarded Canadian intellectual said about multiculturalism.
Multiculturalism was a very well-intended notion, like most Canadian notions, but not very bright like most Canadian notions.